morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Honeycutt. I'm the Director of Voluntary Service for the VA Puget Sound Healthcare System. I'm very glad that you're all with us and spending a portion of your Veterans Day with us. So I'm very privileged to welcome you, first of all, to the Wall of Heroes ceremony, where in just a few moments we will be formally inducting Mr. Joe LaVoie. And also welcome you to what is the beginning of our Veterans Day observances here at VA Puget Sound. While we truly believe in VA that every day is Veterans Day, we applaud our nation's decision to restore the observance of Veterans Day in 1978 to November 11th, no matter what day of the week it falls upon. Doing so not only preserves the historical significance of the date, but it helps focus attention on the important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, their love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. So that's what we're doing later today for our hospitalized veterans who aren't able to celebrate their day in their home communities. We bring it to them. In Seattle, we have some groups who are already here with us, participating in the Wall of Heroes ceremony. And then at about between 9 and 9:30, we have a lot of folks from our community who will be visiting our hospitalized veterans up on our inpatient units, providing them with a commemorative Veterans Day pin. And a number of groups have brought in some beautiful patriotic blankets to present to our veterans as well. At American Lake, where I'm headed next, we also have a Veterans Day program on our Community Living Center that begins at 1 o'clock for our veteran residents there. But right now, we turn our attention to this morning's Wall of Heroes induction ceremony. And so to officially begin our program, please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, I'm very pleased to introduce to you my brand new boss, Mr. Eric Leal, who is the Assistant Director for the VA Puget Sound Healthcare System. Mr. Leal?
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me okay? All right, I don't know how well this works. So. Welcome to VA Puget Sound Healthcare System, Seattle's Division Veterans Day celebration. Samuel Johnson, the great 18th century poet and moralist, once said, "People need to be less instructed in new truths than to be reminded of truths they have long known." We are gathered here today for the latter purpose, to remind ourselves of truths we have heard many times, that freedom is not free. In Jefferson's words, the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And that, in words sometimes attributed to Winston Churchill, a nation that does not honor its heroes will soon have no heroes to honor. Today's commemoration traces its lineage back to 95 years to 1918, when the guns fell silent across the battlefields of Europe. Nearly 5 million Americans served in the war to end all wars. More than 53,000 did not return. More than 20 years later, another world war erupted, during which 16 million Americans served and 30,000 made the ultimate sacrifice to free Europe, Africa, and the Pacific from tyranny. 6 years later, nearly 2 million Americans were called to serve in Korea, where 35,000 gave their lives to rescue a desperate people from communist aggression. And more than 3.4 million men and women served in Vietnam, where the names of 58,000 are lined in the long black wall in our nation's capital, lest we forget the sacrifice that they made. Since Vietnam, Americans have deployed under arms in nearly a dozen troubled lands: Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, Somalia, Haiti, the Balkans, and the Middle East. Nearly 2.4 million Americans have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. More than 5,300 have been killed in action. 50,000 have been wounded, and 1,600 of whom have lost an arm or a leg. The veterans who fought the war to end all wars are all gone now. The last, Frank Buckles, died 2 years ago. But more than 1 million veterans in the Second World War are still with us, and there are about 21 million veterans of the war since then. That's 22 million Americans, 22 million veteran witnesses to both the hard truths that wars still trouble the earth, and the proud fact that courageous Americans of every generation will rise up and step forward to fight for freedom when they are called upon. Today, the nation pauses to honor all the men and women, past and present, who have fought its wars and stood watch around the world through the restless respites from war we call peace. It is a day for remembrance, gratitude, and exhortation. Today, we remember the sacrifices of veterans who have gone before us, thank those who are still with us, and exhort each other and our young to live up to the example of selfless sacrifice for the common good. For the Department of Veterans Affairs, every day is Veterans Day. The VA provides world-class health care to qualified veterans, education benefits, home loans, and operates the country's largest cemetery system, honoring veterans and their families with a final resting place and national shrines with lasting tributes that commemorates their service and their sacrifice. More than 330,000 employees come to the VA every day, one third of whom are veterans, myself included. We have one single mission: to keep the promise of Abraham Lincoln to care for those who have borne the battle and for those they leave behind. As a society, our participation in commemorative events by our expressions of gratitude to those who have served and those who still serve, and by our advocacy on behalf of veterans in public and private. We acknowledge our continuing dependence on men and women in uniform to protect and defend the nation and ensure past and present generations of the nation's continuing commitment to keeping Lincoln's promise. It is our sacred duty. May God bless Americans' veterans, and may God bless all of Americans who remember and honor them. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Leal. The concept of the Wall of Heroes was brought to VA Puget Sound in 2009 by then Medical Center Director Stan Johnson. Realizing that every day there are heroes among us at VA Puget Sound. The wall was conceived to recognize veterans with local Puget Sound connections for acts of bravery, heroism, and sacrifice during and after their military service. It is currently located in the Veterans Pathway at the Seattle VA Medical Center, right around the corner. That is still viewed as a temporary location for it. And that's where patients, visitors, employees, and volunteers can view the framed personal presentation of veteran heroes, living or deceased, and reflect on their stories. And you know, it doesn't pass any moment of every day, including when I walked in here at 7 in the morning and I saw a veteran stop and reading those one by one. We established the Wall of Heroes in the summer of 2009, posthumously inducting Mr. Claude Owens at that time. He was the first one. Claude was a decorated World War II and Korea War veteran who was perhaps best known at VA Puget Sound, I'm very proud to say, as a volunteer who literally roller skated his way around this place, directing visitors, veterans, everyone, showing them their way, and always with a smile. Since then, we hold our Wall of Heroes induction ceremony on Veterans Day, on November 11th. At our 2009 Veterans Day program, we inducted Mr. Dennis Walden. In 2010, former VA employee Steve Wilbur, that I knew back in the mid-'80s when I first worked here, and also Mr. Sonny Alvarez were inducted. And Sonny, I know you are here. Please stand and be recognized. Medal of Honor recipient Marvin Glenn Shields and Lemanuel Lee Jones were inducted at our 2011 Veterans Day program. And last year, 2 more veterans joined our Wall of Heroes, Preston Scheid and Everett Sarge Carter. Mr. Carter is also here today. And I'm very proud to say, as is Sonny, as is Sarge, as is Preston, all very dedicated and longtime VA Puget Sound volunteers as well. And that tradition continues today. This year, we are honored to announce that Mr. Joseph R. LaVoie II is our 2013 Wall of Heroes inductee. And so it is with great pleasure that we begin our formal induction by introducing Martha LaVoie, who will read the biography of her husband Joe and help with the unveiling of his framed presentation. Martha.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry. I'd like to take some time to tell you about my husband Joe, who means the world to me. And I told myself I wasn't going to cry, but obviously I failed there. So I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about all the things that he's done. Joseph R. LaVoie II began his military service at the age of 17. He joined the Navy Reserves while still attending Tucson High School, and upon graduation he went on active duty and spent 2 years aboard the USS Genesee AOG-8, which was home ported in the Far East. He then re-enlisted in the regular Navy and continued to sea duty out of Pearl Harbor and San Francisco. He was discharged in 1963 as a first-class petty officer and returned to Tucson. There is where he served on the Tucson City Fire Department until the summer of 1966, where he re-enlisted in the Navy. Stationed aboard the USS Gallant MSO, sorry, I can't see through the tears, 488. He participated in Operation Market Time off the coast of Vietnam. In the summer of 1967, he transferred to Coastal Division 1 in country Vietnam and spent the next 18 months as leading petty officer aboard swift boats. He also patrolled the coast rivers and Mekong Delta. He completed over 200 combat patrols, and was awarded a Bronze Star with Combat V device. After leaving Vietnam, he served on a number of other ships and on one short shore duty tour. Transferring to the Fleet Reserve of June 1980, he returned to Tucson and started a career as a land surveyor, and that's how we met. In September of 1989, he was placed on the Navy retired list as a CWO2 bosun. In 1991, that's when I married my best friend and became his wife. We then relocated to the Puget Sound area, where we were able to have all of you in our lives. We've met a lot of friends while we've been here, and we hope to meet many more. Upon retirement from civilian work in June 2009, he started to volunteer at Tahoma National Cemetery as chairman of the VSO Honor Guard Committee, where he has occurred over 3,500 hours. Plus his wife pushed him to go do something and not stay home. Joe LaVoie is a life member of the DAV and a member of the Swift Boat Sailors Association. In closing, I have some things that I would like to say. Throughout this whole ordeal, Joe was asked, why him? Why was he being honored today? I didn't have answers. But I searched and I searched, and this is what I came up with. What is a hero? A hero is someone that is there when a friend is having a hard time. Whether he needs to talk to for 10 minutes or 2 hours, Joe will be there. A hero is someone that eases the pain and hurt of families when they have to lay their loved ones to rest and say a final goodbye. He is there. A hero is someone, when you come home at night, after working 13 hours a day, grouchy, he is there to hug me and greet me every night at my car. That is a hero. A hero is my husband, my friend, but most of all, the love of my life. When the soldiers would come home, there are parades, there are parties, there are welcome homes, there are banners, balloons, and flowers that they receive. When you returned from Vietnam, there were no such things, no parades, no welcome home parties, no thank yous. Well, today is your day. And today I want to say, welcome home. And I miss you. And I love you very, very much. And you deserve this honor today.
You did good. Now I have to try to read my notes through tears. Thank you very much. So I would actually ask now Mr. Leal and Martha to come up here, and we will unveil our tribute to Mr. Joel LaVoie. Please. To ask you to applaud again in just a moment for a very warm round of applause as we officially welcome to you our newest inductee to VA Puget Sound's Wall of Heroes, Mr. Joel LaVoie. Please join in photo
Sorry, sir.
Please stay there for a minute while we have a lot of photo ops coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Hope you practice smiling.
Got it. Good job.
Sue, will you do one with my tablet?
I will.
Here, let me turn it on.
As I say, I don't know how to do that. I don't.
Oh, excuse me.
You're fine. I'm just turning it so it's a rough shot.
Oh. Wow.
Okay.
And I will say there will be opportunity for more photo ops. This is the official unveiling. It will temporarily be hung after our program in the location, but we will permanently attach that later. There will be other photo ops then. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask if Mr. Joel LaVoie would like to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. Crying must be a family thing. Last week I spoke at my granddaughter's school and choked my way through that one. The biggest thing that I've never been able to say thank you for is this honor. And the only question that I've had throughout the whole week, or the last couple weeks, is why do I get honored for doing something that is such a great honor to be able to do in the first place? Those hours that I spend out at National Cemetery are some of the most rewarding things, most rewarding time I've ever had. People have asked me, well, isn't it depressing being out there doing funeral after funeral after funeral? And no, sometimes it's sad if it's a very young person. And there's very young children there, it's sad. Or if we had one 3 years ago, elderly lady in her late 80s, was late getting there because she got lost. She called, she pulled in, and she was in this car, had the urn and the flag on the seat next to her, and not another soul in the world. So my volunteer honor guards took her as if there was 1,000 people there and she was a Medal of Honor winner. And those guys that I work with are a bunch of grumpy old men, but they do a hell of a job out there, and I love every one of them. And I want to thank you all for this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. It is our honor. So to conclude this portion of our Veterans Day observances, I'd like to introduce to you now U.S. Army veteran and I will say super volunteer Maggie Wilson, who will conclude our program today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm one of the Bronze Age Army volunteers, and it definitely is volunteer. I was in the Women's Army Corps way back in 1975 to 1978. I keep saying one of these days they're going to bronze me. What we're going to do now is we're going to be playing the service songs. And we're going to be playing them in order of precedence, however it's going to be backwards. So I'll give you a hint, the Army's last. So I'll announce them also in case anybody doesn't recognize them. If you are able to, we would appreciate it if you would stand. If you can't stand, stomp your feet, clap your hands, raise your hands, wave. Do whatever the Spirit moves you to do. I would like to thank each and every one of you for serving, because whether you were on active duty or a family member, you serve. And I want to welcome each and every one of you home, and thank you for your service. Well, let's hope this thing works right. Momentary pause, sorry. There we go. This is going to be, the first song is going to be the U.S. Coast Guard, Santa Paradas. Next is the United States Air Force. I only ask that you stand for your particular service song.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody. The reason I know all the service songs is because I worked for 4 branches of the service, and I'm a Marine wife, so I got them all covered.
Thanks, Maggie.
No problem. Give me a second.
You know, they teach us in voluntary service to be a little flexible, and we're not going to conclude our program yet. First of all, I want to pay tribute again to all of you. Our veterans are active duty in the room today. I see a number of our veterans from our Community Living Center have joined us as well, and we're very glad you are here with us. And a person who works with Joe out at Tahoma National Cemetery would like to share a few closing thoughts and tribute to Joe. So at this time, Mr. Abdul Mehmet.
Hello friends, we just heard the biography of Chief Warrant Officer Joe LaVoie, but I've had the honor of working with him at the National Cemetery, and I would like you all to know what a true living hero he is. He's there every day in and day out, whether it's cold, rainy or snow, to honor the Navy veterans. And I mean, there are some days which can be long days. It can stretch to almost an 8-hour day, and in spite of all the cold weather, I've never seen him take a seat at any of these services. He will always be standing. I mean, there are veterans who come there maybe once a month, twice a month to honor the veterans, but Chief Warrant Officer Joe LaVoie, he's there every single day. And plus, like I said, he never even takes a seat. Some of us might take a seat in between, but I've seen him always standing on his feet in spite of all the cold weather and everything. So he is a true living hero, and he truly deserves this honor that has been bestowed on him.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our Wall of Heroes program this morning. Again, lots of other things going on. Again, congratulations, Joe, to you, Martha, your family, your friends. Thank you all for joining us to pay tribute to this true American hero. And we thank you for those of you who are coming and helping us visit our veterans and doing some of the other things we talked about earlier. Enjoy your day. Happy Veterans Day. Please enjoy the refreshments of the other side of this wall. Linger as long as you'd like, and read those stories of our Wall of Heroes, past and present. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you know, you can get